Welcome to the Exam Room Podcast, brought to you by the Physicians Committee. Hello, I'm Chuck Carroll. Thank you so very much for watching and downloading in more than 150 countries around the world and making the Exam Room one of the most consumed nutrition podcasts anywhere on the planet today. And you know, we have talked previously about nitrates and how good they are for lowering blood pressure, but my guest today says, hey, buddy, we're just scratching the surface. So let's bring it back to the show. You know him. He is the man. He is my good friend, Mr. PhD himself, Cyrus Khambatta. What's up, dude?
Chuck, the man, the myth, the legend. Thank you so much for having me back here, man. I appreciate it.
Hardly a legend, sir. I'm just a squirrel in your world. You know what I mean? I'm just taking up some space. That's all I'm doing.
Not even close. Not even close. Your ability to, the way that you introduce things, your sort of like your ability to co-host or to host a show is just like unparalleled. I could literally sit here and just listen to you talk for 60 minutes and I would be thoroughly, thoroughly entertained.
Oh, well, maybe if I ever decide to do, like a stand-up set or something like that, I'll get you a front row seat and I will try to thoroughly entertain you. So what's new with you, man? How are things going before we dive into nitrates? What's crack-a-lackin' in Cyrus Khambatta's world?
Things are going fantastic. As you know, and I think a lot of our listeners know at this point, it's been over a year since I left the world of mastering diabetes.
Yeah.
And so we have a new program through our new business called Evolution Health. And this program is doing some tremendous things to help people lower their blood glucose and blood pressure and cholesterol and lose weight. So there's sort of this constellation of problems that seems to travel together, and we can help people with all four of those things. So we have a lot of people that are going through this program right now and just getting unbelievable weight loss results, blood pressure reduction, blood glucose reduction, cholesterol reduction. And honestly, I just love helping other people change. And, it's the reason why I get up in the morning.
Amen to that, my man. And how often do nitrates come up in conversation with your clients?
Oh, I don't know. Only every day, I would say, because we've educated them about the power of nitrate-rich vegetables. And the more that I study nitrates myself, the more my mind is blown by how many powers they have. So we can nerd out on it today for sure.
Let's nerd out on nitrates. Why not? I think that's a fantastic one. Everybody knows about beets are really good for nitrates, nitrate-rich foods. What are some other nitrate-rich vegetables? We talked about that, I think, a little bit the last time you were on the show, but refresh our memory.
Okay, cool. All right. So there are multiple different nitrate-rich vegetables. The reason why nitrate-rich vegetables are important, and the majority of people at this point probably know that when you eat nitrate-rich vegetables, you can lower your blood pressure. That's what has become popularized about the effect of nitrate-rich vegetables. And these vegetables include beets, like you're saying, and then arugula and spinach and Swiss chard, as well as celery, which is a new one that most people don't talk about. And these foods as a whole, all of them contain these nitrate compounds. And these nitrate compounds can yes, they can lower blood pressure for sure, but they can do a whole lot more than that. And, when the time is right, we can nerd out on the biochemistry of exactly why.
Yeah, dude. So people, you're right. They don't talk about celery because that really is the first rule of celery is not to talk about celery. But I thank you. I'm curious, like, what is it as powerful? Like is it on a 1-to-1 level as a beet or spinach, or is it just one of those kind of low key? Maybe it's 3/4 as powerful kind of vegetables.
That's a good question. Okay, so here's what most people don't know. Quick tip: celery is as powerful as beets are for inducing all of the effects of nitrate-rich vegetables. In other words, beets and celery are both like neck and neck tied for their nitrate content. All right. In addition to that, spinach is also way up there at the top of the nitrate-rich vegetable powerhouse category. But the one that is consistently the highest ranked of all the nitrate-rich vegetables is arugula. Okay, the problem with these leafy green vegetables is that you got to eat a whole bunch of them in order to get a reasonable dose of nitrates on a regular basis. But when it comes to eating beets and when it comes to eating celery, you can have about one beet or you can have the equivalent of 5 to 7 stalks of celery. Okay, I'm not talking about 5 to 7 bulbs. I'm talking about just the actual, stalks that come off the celery plant. A stalk is something like, 8 inches long or so. And 5 to 7 of those bad boys, whopping powerhouse dose of nitrates.
All right, but what happens like if you do the ants on a log bit like my mom used to do for me back in the day, where you put the peanut butter in there, maybe some chocolate chips or raisins if you want to keep it on the healthier side? Does that offset the benefit?
Not necessarily offset the benefit. You'll still get the benefit of the nitrates, but it kind of really boils down to, it's like, do you want to eat a good food with a bad food? Do you, and hope that the good food covers for the bad food on the way down, right? It's like eating a carrot and an onion ring together and hoping that the carrot's like, oh, don't worry, man. He's with me. Everything's fine, right? That's not the way it works in reality, right? The idea here is that what we're trying to, I'm not saying that, raisins are bad for you. I'm not saying that peanut butter is bad for you, but I'm saying that like in order to answer this question, we have to isolate the effect of just the nitrate-rich vegetable first, and then we can talk about bigger, collections of food, and to try and figure out, what's the most intelligent way to combine nitrate-rich vegetables amongst a whole bunch of other whole food, plant-based foods simultaneously.
How do you eat your celery? I don't know why I'm hung up on celery stalks right now. Just plain celery does not appeal to me whatsoever.
It doesn't. Okay, so celery juice has become real popular over the course of the last 5 to 10 years. People are juicing celery left and right all over the place. That is a perfectly reasonable way in order to get the nitrates into your mouth. So that's an option for you. You could, if you cook nitrate-rich vegetables, the higher the temperature and the longer they're at high temperature, the lower the nitrate compounds, the more the nitrate compounds get degraded. So truth be told, you want to eat your nitrate-rich vegetables as raw or as uncooked as possible. So when it comes to celery, I mean, I don't really know. You could, you could pulverize it into a powder and then, mix that into a smoothie. But
you're a man who's famous for just walking around and eating like chickpeas or whatever right out of the can, right? Like that's your jam, right?
100%.
So, right. So like, are you also going to go into the fridge, just get that plain stalk of celery and nibble on it?
Oh, there's no question. I do that on a regular basis. And yeah, call me weird. If you think eating celery just out of, just by itself is weird, then I'm very weird. But another thing that you can do is like the Sherzais have actually in their recipe book, they have a recipe for this stuff called like chickpea tuna salad. Right. So it's supposed to look and feel like tuna salad, but it's made out of chickpeas. So you take chickpeas, you combine it with like little celery pieces, and then you combine it with nutritional yeast plus an apple and then some other spices, and then it turns out to be this like really tasty sort of Mediterranean flavor, right? That's a simple way to get, celery into your mouth. So it's not like you have to sit there and eat it as if you're like Bugs Bunny. You can combine it into many other dishes. You can chop it up into really tiny pieces and stick it into a salad. You can put it into a bean salad. I mean, it's a very diverse thing. But if you fundamentally don't like the flavor of celery itself, that's a different issue.
All right, if you're just joining us, you're listening to Cooking with Khambatta here on the Exam Room Podcast. Thanks for joining us. Bing bong at the time. It's 5 minutes before 2. All right, man. So let's nerd out a little bit. Let's do what you are so good at, and let's just get all kinds of like sciencey and just like nerddom and really take the health IQ to the next level. So we know what the effect of the nitrate is in terms of lowering the blood pressure, but what is actually going on inside the body once we consume these things? Break it down mechanistically.
Okay, here's the mechanism. This is the kind of stuff that I love to nerd out on, right? Because I'm always asking myself, well, how does it do that? And how does it do that? And how does it do that, right? So I'm sitting here trying to understand like what happens in your mouth, what happens in your stomach, what happens in your digestive system, and beyond. So when you eat nitrate-rich vegetables, the very first compartment that they go into is your mouth. Okay, now when you chew the nitrate-rich vegetables, suppose you're eating a beet. Okay, this is a raw beet. And you're chewing on it. Now you have saliva, you have effectively bacteria in your mouth that creates, that mixes with saliva. And that saliva, as you chew and masticate the beet, it ends up taking some of the nitrate compounds and converting them into nitrite compounds directly in your mouth. So approximately 25% of the nitrate that you put into your mouth gets converted on the spot from nitrate into nitrite. Okay, that's step one of this whole process. Step 2 is that you swallow the remainder of the beets, okay? So the beet pulp goes down your esophagus, it gets inside of your stomach, and then inside of your stomach is where it starts to get converted again from nitrate into nitrite, okay? So ultimately what you want to do is take as much of the nitrate content as possible and convert it into nitrite, and then you want to take the nitrite and convert it into this stuff called nitric oxide. That's the end product that we care about, okay? So the nitrate to nitrite conversion, 25% of it happens in your mouth, 75% of it happens inside of your digestive system, okay? So when you consume nitrate-rich foods, you're getting a little bit in your mouth, you're getting most of it in your digestive system, and then the nitrites are then pulled into your bloodstream. Okay, now here's where it gets really interesting. Once you have nitrites in your blood, these nitrites serve as the building blocks. They're like the Lego pieces that then go on to form a gas called nitric oxide. Now, the reason why nitric oxide is important is because you guys have probably heard of the endothelial layer inside of blood vessels. Okay, this is the single cell lining of all blood vessels, whether we're talking about your aorta or your vena cava, which are very large blood vessels, or we're talking about microscopic capillary blood vessels inside of your brain and inside of your kidney and inside of your eye. Okay, every single blood vessel in your body has endothelial cells on the inside of them. Now, these endothelial cells are the location at which the nitrite gets converted into nitric oxide. All right. Now, a couple of key things to think about. Nitric oxide is a gas. Okay. It is not a physical molecule. It is not a molecule that exists in a liquid state or a solid state. It is a gas, which means that when it is produced, its half-life is like 5 seconds. Okay, it gets produced by the endothelial cells, and then all of a sudden, boom, it has an opportunity to act. And then if it doesn't have, a target to act on, it's gone. It's literally just vaporizes. Okay, so what that means is that the nitric oxide, when it's produced inside of your endothelial cells, ends up diffusing, effectively traveling to local cells within the neighboring area. Okay. And when it travels to local cells within the neighboring area, it can, number one, act on the walls of the blood vessel itself. Okay. Which, truth be told, the walls of blood vessels are muscle. It's called smooth muscle. And then it can actually go beyond the smooth muscle and it can go into neighboring tissues that blood vessel is residing inside of. Okay. So in the walls of the blood vessels themselves, the smooth muscle, when it is bathed with nitric oxide, the smooth muscle effectively relaxes, okay? So the smooth muscle is basically like, you can think of it as like let's just pretend like my hands are smooth muscle, right? So my neck is a blood vessel, and I am the smooth muscle that's surrounding the blood vessel, okay? Now, if you put nitric oxide into this system, what ends up happening is that the grip of the smooth muscle relaxes, which means that the blood vessel begins to dilate. It becomes just a little bit bigger. I'm talking 10 to 20% larger than it was prior to nitric oxide. And as a result of that, the amount of blood that can then flow down that tube is significantly larger. Okay? Random tidbit. If you take a blood vessel and you increase its diameter by 20%, okay, we're talking a very small increase in the diameter of that blood vessel, the flow through that tube increases by 107%. Okay? So a 20% increase in the diameter leads to a 107% increase in the flow through that tube. Okay? So what does that mean? That means that when you produce nitric oxide, you are significantly increasing the amount of blood that can get pushed into that blood vessel. And if there's more blood that can get into that blood vessel, well, then guess what? That means there's more oxygen that can get into that blood vessel. That means that there's more oxygen that can then diffuse into the tissues that are surrounding it. So you can think of nitric oxide as a key that unlocks blood vessels and makes them physically larger. And as a result of that, you get a rush of oxygenated blood that can then go through that vessel, that can then make its way into tissues, that can then oxygenate tissues, cells in tissues nearby. Okay? I'll pause there for a second. Does any of this make sense?
Well, it all makes sense. And I kind of see where you're going with this, because at this point, my mind is already going to, man, I bet that this would really benefit athletic performance.
Bingo. You nailed it on the head. Okay.
Yeah.
So you're absolutely right. So not only does it, let's talk about athletics in here just 1 second here, because effectively what is happening is that the blood vessels are getting larger because, again, they're under the influence of nitric oxide. And by being under the influence of nitric oxide, that then allows the blood vessels to relax. So again, we've talked about the fact that it reduces blood pressure. Well, where's the pressure? What does this mean? Okay. The pressure that we talk about when it comes to blood pressure is the pressure on the walls of the blood vessel itself. Okay. So if you, again, are the smooth muscle that is surrounding a vessel, and there is a tight grip on that vessel, and the vessel doesn't have much of an ability to dilate, then that means that the pressure in the walls of the blood vessel itself is going to be relatively high. So when you go to the doctor and you get your blood pressure measured, you're technically measuring the pressure on the walls of large blood vessels inside of your body, okay? So if you can relax the pressure on the walls, then that relaxes your overall blood pressure, and that's a good thing for you because that significantly prolongs your life and reduces your risk for a future cardiac event such as a stroke or a heart attack in the future. All right? So as a result of that, what you want to do is dilate blood vessels and allow the walls of blood vessels to be as relaxed as possible. And when they are very relaxed, then that means that it can significantly reduce your blood pressure and then lead to much better outcomes, okay? So blood pressure reduction happens, again, because of nitric oxide production. But your point here, which is that that's just the tip of the iceberg. That's literally like the first thing that happens when nitric oxide is produced. When more oxygen gets inside of the blood vessel, there's many things that can happen. Number one, you can take tiny little microscopic capillaries that have been closed or that have a very, very weak ability to transport blood just due to, age and due to a poor diet and due to not exercising frequently. And you can take these tiny capillaries that have become somewhat dysfunctional and you can open them up once again because you're forcing more blood to go through blood vessels, even if they're tiny microscopic capillary blood vessels, and that effectively opens them up. So now those blood vessels become more functional once again. And that's a really good thing because those tiny capillary blood vessels are all throughout your body. And capillaries, when they are perfused, meaning when they receive a significant amount of blood flow, can actually significantly improve the amount of oxygen that's delivered to all tissues. Okay, so that's number one. Now, number two, the oxygen that gets inside of those blood vessels, okay, the oxygen is carried inside of red blood cells. Red blood cells trap the oxygen in this stuff called hemoglobin. And then when the red blood cells get inside of those blood vessels, they start to release the oxygen, and that oxygen then goes through the walls of the blood vessel and then gets to the neighboring tissue, okay? So let's suppose you say to yourself, you're like, yep, I've heard it before. I know I'm supposed to exercise. I get it. Everybody's been telling me I should be exercising for a long period of time, but you know what? I don't really like exercise. Exercise kind of sucks. It's hard. It forces me to have to breathe a lot. I get out of breath. It's uncomfortable. I start to sweat. I don't like to sweat, right? Okay. There's a lot of people who feel this way, and that's why they gravitate towards, well, what foods can I eat that will significantly improve my health? And, as we know, a plant-based diet with a whole bunch of different, many iterations of, whole food plant-based material can make significant impacts. But exercise is a non-negotiable. Okay. If you want to live a long and healthy life with a significantly reduced risk for chronic diseases, well, then guess what? Exercise is your best friend. But if you don't love exercise, or if exercise is uncomfortable and exercise is hard, then this is where nitrate-rich vegetables can come in, because studies demonstrate that nitrate supplementation, aka nitrate-rich vegetable consumption, can reduce the amount of oxygen that is required to perform exercise by between 5 and 10%. And that means that you actually perceive the exercise to be easier. Okay, this is a big one. Athletes who take nitrate supplements or that consume nitrate-rich vegetables on a regular basis report back that when they perform exercise, it just feels easier. There is literally less effort required in order to perform the same amount of exercise. And as a result of that, number one, exercise becomes more enjoyable. But number two, it enables them to perform more exercise because they don't feel like they're having to work as hard. Okay, so you can really think about the nitric oxide as being the key to opening blood vessels, which then allows oxygen to get inside tissues. And then when that oxygen gets inside of those tissues, the oxygen then goes and feeds the muscle tissue to make exercise significantly easier. Am I making any sense at all?
Not whatsoever. Not to me, but you're not supposed to, because, well, I'm just me. Everything goes over my head, sir. No, man, it actually does. It makes a ton of sense to me, and it's got me wondering. So if you're able to accomplish the same tasks in terms of exercise and feel like it's 10% easier, I mean, like that's huge, right? But then what about in terms of like overall performance? Like, say you're a sprinter, right? You're Noah Lyles. Is that going to enable you to run a little bit faster as well, or is it just you're going to be doing it just more easily? Do you actually get a boost in performance?
Yes, you get a very big boost in performance. Okay, so let's break this up into, I guess we'll call it like two different types of exercise. You have the endurance types of exercise, which are sort of like long duration, cardiovascular style movements like running, biking, hiking, jogging, cycling. These types of movements can be performed for like 30, 60, 2 hours at a time. And then you have high intensity exercise, which is a form of exercise that occurs at a higher heart rate. And because it's so much harder, you can't do it for a very long period of time. Okay. So the endurance exercise is considered aerobic, meaning with oxygen. So you're able to consume significant amount of oxygen to be able to allow you to perform for a long period of time. And then high intensity exercise is considered anaerobic, which basically means that you cannot take enough oxygen in order to sustain that for a significant period of time. All right. So the endurance exercisers, what they report back when they're doing regular nitrate supplementation is that their time to exhaustion increases by 12 to 25%. Okay. Let's just wrap our head around what those numbers mean. Time to exhaustion increases by 12 to 25%. What that means, like these are very large numbers in the exercise world, because if you can gain even like a 1% advantage or a 2% advantage over a competitor, then that means that you can do significant, you can beat them, very quickly. But a 12 to 25% increase in time to exhaustion is massive. So what that means is that if you would normally get exhausted within a 30-minute period, that means that now you're getting exhausted somewhere between, call it 34 minutes and as much as 37 minutes, right? Again, it may not seem like a significant increase, but it truly is, especially if you repeat this on a regular basis over and over and over again. Then the 30 minutes, before you know it, becomes 35, becomes 40, and before you know it, now you're up to 60 minutes and beyond, okay? Now, this is particularly beneficial for events that are lasting between a minimum of 5 minutes and somewhere between 5 and 60 minutes. Okay. And these benefits have been observed both in trained athletes as well as recreational athletes. So you do not need to be an Olympian in order to feel these effects. Now, when it comes to high intensity exercise, which is anaerobic exercise, okay, this is where you are going to experience a significantly reduced perception of effort, meaning it's going to become significantly easier. You're going to perceive that it is easier to perform high intensity interval training simply because it is generally very hard to do. Okay. So regardless of the type of athlete you are, whether you're the fast sprinter or whether you're the sort of like long, slow endurance athlete, you will get performance benefits for both of them. Your perception of which one becomes easier is slightly shifted towards the high intensity exercise. Does that make sense?
Yeah, dude, that's so cool. You are such a nerd. Like, so when you, and I mean that lovingly, sir, when when you started to really put the focus on nitrates, like I know that you are very much a gym rat yourself. So it's like, did you notice a difference in terms of how you were able to perform in the gym?
No doubt. Okay, so let's go backwards in time. In the year 2017, I had moved to Costa Rica with my wife, Kylie. And when I was there, I started doing CrossFit. Now, CrossFit is not only high intensity interval training, but it is like extremely high intensity interval training to the point where you feel uncomfortable pretty much every single moment that you're in a CrossFit class. Okay. That's kind of the way it's designed. So I had learned about nitrate supplementation at that time. And I said, you know what? Screw it. Let me just see if I can do this. So I started taking beets on a regular basis. Every single morning I would drink, 1 cup of beet juice. And then I would do that over and over and over and over and over again. I did it for, months at a time. And it took me approximately, I would say, somewhere about 10 days or so of regular beet supplementation to finally feel a dramatic effect. And the dramatic effect, I could feel it like in the middle of a workout where I know, generally speaking, how hard I'm working. And I know what I know what it feels like 25 minutes deep into a CrossFit workout where you are just like balls to the wall, right? But when I hit that point, when I had beets in me on a regular basis, I still felt like I had a significant amount of gas left in my tank. And so I repeated this over and over and over again, and it made a difference. And I said to myself, okay, cool, sweet. I'm not making this up. I definitely have, more capacity. And I also started to recognize that my times were improving. Okay, so I could actually perform more work within the same given period of time, or I could just make the workout a little bit faster. Okay, so this is definitely a known thing, and it's something that I definitely have experience with for sure. And I've
awesome.
helped a lot of other athletes also do this, and they've also experienced the same thing. There's a very conserved effect amongst lots of other people.
So with the beet juice, I'm going to throw you a like the curveball of all curveballs here, man. So just get ready. With the beet juice, did you suffer from, I think it's called beeturia, where you actually pee red from consuming beets?
100%. There's no question about it. Okay. So this is one of the funny things that happens when you consume beets on a regular basis is that
scared the
your
crap
pee
out of
turns
me
red.
when I did it. Yeah.
Yeah, that happened to you too, right?
Scared. I mean, I was like ready to go to the emergency room. I was like, why is there all this blood in my urine? What is going on right now? I'm like, what? I was freaking out, dude.
It's unnerving at first if you forgot that you had beets in your dinner the night before, and then you go pee in the morning, and all of a sudden you're like, am I bleeding inside of my bladder? What is happening here?
Yeah.
But yes, your pee definitely, my pee turned a deep, deep, deep orange, and sometimes it was flat out red. And and at first I was like, oh God, what's happening? And then I was like, oh no, it's the beets. And then it became funny. But then I took it to the next level. And when I would actually go number 2, I would then look in the toilet and my poop had actually turned red as well. Okay.
Wow.
So yeah, the color of your food can certainly impact the color of your poop. And I know we've had Dr. Will Bolswitz on the program multiple times talking about, like eating the blue muffin that Zoe provides, that you can actually track the transit time from your mouth all the way down to your butt. It's the same concept, right? You eat blue food, you end up with blue poop. You eat red food, you end up with red poop. Sometimes you eat a lot of green food, you end up with green poop, right? And it's just kind of funny to watch how your poop definitely does change with the stuff that goes in your mouth.
What is your poop telling you? But all right, anyway, to get back on track here. So, it seems, just to kind of recap here, that the longer you perform in that 5 to 60 minute range, those are when you see kind of like the best gains. But that's not to say also that sprinters and, people who only do short duration, short bursts, they're not also, seeing some benefit here, because I'm sure they are.
Yeah, that's a good question. So I guess what you're saying is when you're talking about a sprinter, you're talking about somebody who performs a sprint for what, like 20 seconds? Are you talking about like a 100-meter sprint or a 200-meter sprint or something like that? Right.
Either way, it's going to be well under that 5-minute mark. But yeah, let's take the 100 for instance.
Yeah. So if you're running the 100 and you're doing it relatively fast, you're going to be running it somewhere between, call it, I don't know, 10 to 13 seconds, right? So 10 to 13 seconds, you're going to be mainly operating on phosphocreatine at that point. Okay, because it is such a high intensity, short burst duration. So you're going to be utilizing mainly phosphocreatine for energy at that point. But I don't know the answer to your question. I could rationalize that, having nitric oxide available for that sprint is going to make a significant difference. But I would have to do a little bit of reading to determine whether or not that's a true statement specifically for like that short of a duration. But the truth is that, most of the people listening to this podcast, we're not like Olympic sprinters. We're not going out to the track and we're not trying to improve our 100-meter times. We're regular athletes who are going to the gym on a regular basis to try and, get through a spin class or go through a Zumba class or something like that. So for these recreational style activities, you can certainly feel a difference. And especially, I got to hit this on the head. Don't just do it once or twice. Please, my friends, do it 500 times. Okay. If you become a chronic nitrate supplementer, a chronic nitrate consumer, you are likely to improve your cardiovascular metabolism so much that many things improve. Your blood pressure drops exercise becomes easier, oxygen perfusion significantly increases to all tissues, including your eyes and your brain and your lungs and your kidneys and your liver and beyond. There's almost like no harm that can come of this. One other thing that we also haven't talked about yet is mitochondria. Now, I know in a previous episode, we talked about 7 foods that can significantly improve mitochondrial function. It was actually 7 foods that can make new mitochondria, not just make existing mitochondria function better, but actually synthesize new mitochondria. Okay. Well, guess what? Nitric oxide talks to mitochondria directly. And this was something that when I learned it, I was like, wow, this is yet another benefit that comes along for the ride with chronic nitrate supplementation. Okay. So the way that it does is that nitric oxide can directly interact with mitochondrial proteins, because the mitochondria are just like bags of protein with a whole bunch of like very sophisticated functionality. And the nitric oxide can directly interact with some of the complexes in the electron transport chain, which are the very location at which this stuff called ATP is produced. ATP, again, is a cellular form of energy. And you must be able to synthesize ATP in large quantities on demand in order to be, have functional cells and functional tissue for a long period of time. So anytime your ATP production is reduced, whether it's inside of your liver or your kidneys or your muscle tissue or your thyroid gland or your brain, ATP production is so important that you want to be able to maximize it at all points. Okay. Nitric oxide can enhance ATP production. So that is a very, very, very good thing. Simultaneously, another thing that really can get in the way are these things called reactive oxygen species or free radicals. That's what we know them as. Free radicals are pains in the butt because when mitochondria are actively manufacturing ATP, if they are fed dirty fuels, okay, dirty fuels are things like packaged and processed foods, like highly refined ingredients, high saturated fat intake, blackened foods, like charbroiled foods. These types of ingredients can significantly increase the amount of free radicals that are produced in mitochondria. So the nitric oxide production can go counteract the free radical production and reduce free radical production, which is good because that enables the mitochondria to effectively function more effectively. Now, the last thing I'll say is that not only do they preserve the function and increase the function of existing mitochondria, but they also help increase mitochondrial number, just like we had talked about in the previous episode. Okay, so chronic exposure, again, exposure to nitrate-rich compounds and nitric oxide on a regular basis significantly increases the amount of nitric oxide that's produced and interacted with at the level of the mitochondria. And this can actually serve as a signal to go make new mitochondria, which is a really big deal because when you're making new mitochondria, that means that you are making more ATP on a regular basis. And all of this has very powerful benefits for all tissues.
All right. I want to go back to something you said in terms of the harmful effects of those processed foods. And when, I think processed foods, one of the ones that I think of first is, deli meat, right? Those ham, turkey, whatever the case may be. But I know that those are also associated with the word nitrate. So what's the difference between the nitrates we're talking about today versus what they are when they're in the processed meats?
Okay. Those are very good questions. So the nitrates that you're talking about when they are in those processed meats, they are the result of oftentimes some type of like smoking process where they've like been smoked for a long period of time, or they have been preserved, and that gives rise to the nitrate compounds, okay? The nitrate compounds that I'm talking about that come inside of beets and celery and arugula and spinach and beyond are naturally occurring nitrate compounds. So the difference really becomes, are the nitrates naturally occurring? If so, the answer is they're probably good for you. If they are the result of a manufacturing process or if they're a result of a cooking process, then those nitrate compounds can actually go on to be very maladaptive. And actually, these deli meats are considered class 1 carcinogens according to the World Health Organization. And that's actually something you don't want to be putting into your mouth on a regular basis.
No doubt about it. And is there anybody that should not be eating a nitrate-rich diet? Like maybe somebody who's got gut health issues, somebody who's suffering from chronic migraines. Is there anybody who may want to steer clear of this, or is this a pretty universally healthy thing?
So to the best of my ability, as I've gone through the research and looked for like side effects of nitrate metabolism, I haven't come across any particular, population that should not be using nitrate supplementation. I would like to say that it's hard. Sometimes when I come across this stuff, I'm like, come on, this can't be good for everybody. There's got to be some subset of the population that shouldn't be using this. But I haven't found that up until this point. I could be wrong, but I don't think that there is.
All right. And we hear about carbo loading in terms of athletic performance the night before a big race, load up on carbs. Is there like optimal time to load up on nitrates, or just have at it throughout the day, or as you did in the morning with the beet juice?
Okay. Is a really good question. All right. So when it comes to the timing of nitrate intake, if you really want an unfair advantage, for number one, blood pressure reduction, but also for improving exercise performance and recovery, what the research indicates is that you have basically two windows of opportunity. Window of opportunity number one is approximately 60 minutes before you perform exercise. So let's just say that you know that you're going to go exercise at, call it 10 o'clock in the morning, and you're going to go to a Zumba class. All right. My recommendation would be consume approximately 400 milligrams of nitrates 60 minutes before moving your body. Okay. And I know you're going to say, well, how much is 400 milligrams? We'll talk about that in a second. But opportunity number one, 60 minutes before you perform exercise, 400 milligrams of nitrates. Boom. Now, as soon as you are done with that exercise, okay, wait for approximately another 60 minutes after, and then take another 400 milligrams of nitrates at that point. So you can think of it as 60 minutes before the start and 60 minutes after the end. And if you're doing 400 milligrams before and 400 milligrams afterwards, you're going to, number one, improve your ability to perform exercise with the pre-dose. And then you're going to, number two, improve your ability to recover from exercise by stimulating mitochondrial function with the dose after exercise. Does that make sense?
It does indeed, sir. So before and after, so you get that boost for performance, and then you get that nice recovery dose about an hour afterward too. And then the world is a healthier place.
The world's a happier place for sure. No question. So now you're probably going to...
Yeah.
So you're going to say, well, all right, fine. How do I get 400 milligrams, right?
Exactly, sir. Talk to us about 400 milligrams.
Okay. So let me just kind of read you guys off a couple of different ways that you can get 400 milligrams. Okay. If you're going to consume arugula, a simple way to do it is you can take about 4 cups of arugula. And I know you might say, well, that's a lot of arugula. And the answer is, yeah, it's a decent amount of arugula. But these cups do not need to be like firmly packed cups, all right? Just take arugula, stick it into a cup. It's pretty leafy. It's pretty, airy. But, pack about 4 cups worth, and that'll give you about 400 milligrams, okay? If instead you wanted to have beets, you would want to cut the beets up into, small bite-sized pieces, and then you want to have about 3 cups. Now you might think, well, that's a lot of beets, but the truth is that it usually turns out to be somewhere between 1.5 to 2 beets in order to get to 3 cups, okay? If you wanted to do celery, the answer would be approximately 1.5 cups of finely chopped celery. Or you could take between 5 and 7 stalks of celery and just eat it like Bugs Bunny. Okay? So those are 3 simple ways that you can do it. If you wanted to do spinach instead, you could do the same amount. You could do 3 cups of spinach that would get you that 400 milligrams of nitrates.
I've heard you can overdo it, though, with spinach. I think it was Miley Cyrus's boyfriend at the time famously quit eating a plant-based diet because he ate so much spinach there was a negative effect. Is that because he was, like, way too heavy on the nitrates at that point?
First of all, is that fake news or is that real?
No, this is not fake news. This is 100% true.
This is 100% true. Okay.
I can't tell you like what exactly happened to him, but I know specifically he said like he was eating way too much spinach and that caused an issue. Not fake news.
Not fake news.
Dude was eating like 4 tubs of spinach a day, like the big honking tubs.
Oh, like those Costco sized tubs?
Yes, sir. Yeah, he was He was going ham, pardon the pun, on the spinach. So
I don't know what happened to him. I'll have to ask ChatGPT after this and see what it comes
right.
up with.
All right. Just out of curiosity, in terms of if somebody wanted to go the beet juice route, how many cups of beet juice would that require to get that 400 milligrams?
Okay, so the answer to that question is I don't know how many cups it would actually yield, but if you were to take 1.5 to 2 beets, okay, now again, beets vary in size. Some of them are medium, some of them are a bit larger, but take 1.5 to 2 medium-sized beets and juiced those. Then you drink the juice of those beets. That should get you approximately 400 milligrams of nitrate. Okay, so how much juice does that result in? A half a cup of juice or 3/4 of a cup? I do not know the answer to that, but just try and get the juice of those two.
All right, man. Before we finish up with some rapid fire fun questions that I got prepared for you, what else have we not covered when it comes to nitrates, my friend?
Okay, what else have we not covered? So we talked about mitochondrial function. We talked about increasing oxygen delivery. We talked about reduction in blood pressure. Oh, here's a couple of things that were important. Okay. Number 1, raw or lightly cooked. Okay. I know we touched on this, but I'm just going to hammer this one home. Okay. If you are to take a beet and you are to boil the beet for, let's say, 8 to 10 minutes, and then take that and put it into a stew and then try and eat it, well, guess what? Most of the nitrate content is now not available to you. So cooking can reduce nitrate content by between 30 and 70%. So your best friend, if you're trying to maximize your nitrate intake, is to, number 1, eat them raw, or number 2, steam them or lightly saute them for a very short period of time. Okay. Number 2, if you are to take nitrate-rich foods and you are to combine them with vitamin C-rich foods, the vitamin C can prevent the conversion of nitrite into potentially harmful nitrosamines inside of your stomach. In other words, what that means is that if you consume polyphenol-rich foods, aka foods that we talked about in the previous episode, okay, foods that are antioxidant-rich, rich in vitamin C, with your nitrate-rich vegetables, then you're going to end up getting an even more effective dose. Okay? Now, things that you want to avoid. Number 1, mouthwash. This is an interesting one. Sometimes people use these, Listerine, these alcohol-based mouthwashes because it makes their mouth feel nice and clean, right? And you get that really fresh breath. Well, it turns out that if you use those alcohol-based mouthwashes, then they can kill a lot of the bacteria inside of your mouth. And as a result of that very first step in the entire nitrate conversion process of nitrate to nitrite inside of your mouth can go down significantly. So if you are using mouthwash, I would strongly recommend reducing your use or eliminating mouthwash altogether, because that can help you extract more nitrates out of your food so that your bacteria in your mouth are more populated and they can do a better job.
Does that go for mouthwash that does not contain alcohol as well?
That is a good question. I do not know the answer to that question. That is a good question.
All right.
Yeah, I think the answer is no. I think it's the alcohol that actually does do the killing, but I could be wrong on that one.
All right.
Okay. And then, again, regular use of nitrates is the key. Okay. So doing it once, doing it twice might give you an effect, but what I'm recommending you do is I want you to do it 7 days a week for 2 months in a row or 3 months in a row. Okay. I want you to get used to consuming nitrate-rich vegetables on a regular basis. And if you were to do that, then you're going to significantly improve your cardiovascular metabolism, and you're going to likely feel the difference that it makes when you go and exercise.
All right. And I'm sure somebody's wondering about dehydrating. You can make beet chips, just thinly slice the beet and then dehydrate them. That's obviously going to be done at a fairly low temperature. Are we still risking losing a substantial amount of nitrates at that point?
Very good question. The number that I saw when I was doing the research is approximately 140 degrees. So as long as you can perform the dehydration less than 140 degrees, which I believe is true, then you can preserve as much nitrate content as possible.
All right. Look at you. Who knew? When you were growing up, were you as excited by nitrates as you are today?
I wasn't even as excited by nitrates as I was today, 6 months ago, because I've been doing a lot of deep diving into these guys. And the answer is no. Did I think that I was going to be talking about food as a career? No, of course not. I would have laughed at myself if you told me that back in the day. I mean, it's a joke, right?
Here you are. Oh, man. That's so funny, man.
But it like if you really step back and take a look at everything, it kind of like makes sense because effectively what I'm a huge fan of is eating a low fat plant-based whole food diet, right? Low fat because it maximizes insulin sensitivity, low fat because it helps reduce total cholesterol, low fat because saturated fat is the driver for insulin resistance and for, increased LDL. So consuming a low fat plant-based whole food diet is a very powerful collection of foods for helping improve gut metabolism as well, helping improve your cardiovascular metabolism, your kidneys, your liver, your brain, the list goes on. Okay. But the specific foods within that realm of low fat plant-based whole foods, each one of them has their own biological effects. Okay. A black bean does not behave the same way as a beet. All right. A mango does not behave the exact same way as a piece of celery, right? They all have very specific types of effects. And when you eat them as a whole in combination with one another, then you end up getting a little bit of an effect from every single one of the foods that you're putting into your mouth. Okay. So there's almost a simplicity in just getting a very wide variety, because a wide variety can help populate your gut bacteria and promote gut diversity or bacterial diversity in your large intestine. And that unto itself can go on and help, make you as anti-inflammatory as possible. So long story short, eat a large variety, a wide variety of plant-based material. But inside of that large variety of plant-based material, try to make sure that you're getting at least one serving of nitrate-rich vegetables on a daily basis. And when you do that, you literally just can't go wrong. You cannot go wrong.
All right. Knowing you the way that I do, I have no doubt that you have celery and mangoes right now in your kitchen, correct?
I have celery in my kitchen. Mangoes are not available because of the wintertime, but we do have a lot of persimmons, because that's my winter go-to fruit.
All right, man. Because I was thinking like mango. Because for whatever reason, now I'm thinking like, well, if you like cut the mango and you actually like put that in the celery, as weird as that sounds, I bet that would pair well together. And obviously,
really
I'm
would.
not even a celery guy.
It really would. Now, I can tell you're not a celery guy, but that's totally cool. You're open-minded to being a celery guy, and I appreciate that.
I want to be. I strive to be cool like you, and celery can help get me a little bit further down that road.
For sure. So what you can do is like, imagine you made a mango smoothie, right? So let's pretend like that. No, here's even better. Go make a mango beet smoothie. Okay. Combine some beets, combine some mango, put some water in there. Maybe you can throw in some spinach in there, just a little bit. Okay. So now you got yourself a nitrate-rich smoothie unto itself. Okay. Because the spinach contains the nitrates, the beets contain the nitrates. But then in addition to that, if you were to drink that mango smoothie and literally take a celery stalk. I know this sounds weird, but dip the celery stalk inside of the mango smoothie and then kind of eat it with like a little bit of mango pulp on the outside. Then you're getting a little bit more nitrates from the celery itself. So you're getting kind of like a triple whammy right there. And the combination of the three of those, you just need a little bit from the celery, a little bit from the spinach, a little bit from the beets. Heck, even throwing a little bit of ginger into that smoothie. And before you know it, now you have something that's like very nitrate rich. But also, again, you're getting diverse, multiple different types of foods that all have very powerful effects simultaneously.
All right. Let's that actually does sound pretty good.
Yeah. Go make it right after this.
Yeah, I think I might. I don't think I have any. Well, I definitely don't have fresh mango right now. I got some frozen though out in the freezer. That could work.
Oh, there you go. You can take some frozen. I mean, if you don't have the mango, do berries. That's another great addition. Frozen berries. If you got those.
Okay. I do. I got a big old Costco bag of mixed berries and blueberries. The frozen organic blueberries from Costco just hit right. They absolutely never disappoint me. All right, let's play Get to Know Cyrus Khambatta. Let's play Get to Know Cyrus Khambatta with the last couple of minutes that we have here. Just rapid fire. Just tell me the first thing that comes to your mind. So if I say arugula or spinach, you say
arugula.
Ooh, all right. Smoothie or salad?
Smoothie.
Endurance athlete or weekend warrior?
Weekend warrior.
One food you would add today for a better workout?
Beets. Any day of the week.
Beets. All right. One mistake people make when trying nitrates?
Not enough. Not frequently enough.
What is your go-to nitrate-rich meal?
Go-to nitrate-rich meal. I literally, what I just described to you, I take whenever I make a smoothie on a daily basis, and I take my celery sticks and I dip it into the smoothie, and I just eat the celery with the smoothie gunk on the outside.
Favorite way to hide beet flavor for beet skeptics?
Favorite way to hide beet flavor for beet skeptics? Wow, good question.
I guess Indy probably likes beets, I'm guessing.
Oh, she laps them up.
Yeah.
Okay, here's what I would say. Don't eat beets. If you really don't like beets, just move on to something else. Get the spinach, get the Swiss chard, get the arugula, get the celery, you can even get some from fennel seeds. Eat those instead. You don't have to live and die by beets.
All right. Not nitrate related necessarily, but what is one food that influencers tend to overhype when it comes to performance? Which one drives you up the wall?
Ooh, one food that people overhype when it comes to performance. Electrolytes. It's not a food, but electrolyte salts. I see this all over the place. So whether you get your Celsius or your Element or your drinks that have all these electrolytes in them, people are constantly pounding their Fit Aids and whatnot. And I'm just like, eat real food, people. Eat real food. You get plenty of electrolyte salts from real food. You have a nutrient poor diet, and you're trying to substitute with a bunch of electrolyte rich beverages that cost a lot of money, that have a ton of refined sweeteners in them. Try to do something different.
Brother, all right, so random side story. I was doing an event at the Capitol here in D.C. a couple of months ago, and everybody walking around was drinking a Celsius. I was like, what is, did this company sponsor the Capitol? What's going on? They were just they just swore that they needed it more than a cup of coffee. It was the craziest damn thing.
I know. It is shocking to me just how many people think they need or have become somewhat addicted to either Celsius or Element or Fit Aid. Those are the three that come to mind. And people are drinking this stuff. I mean, this is basically like the new versions of Gatorade, because we used to do this back in the 1980s and 1990s with Gatorade, right? But it's the same concept. And unfortunately, I mean, those drinks have a purpose every once in a while. But again, if they were eating real food, I strongly believe that they'd be getting most of their electrolyte salts from their food itself and wouldn't have the need to be drinking those drinks.
All right, final question. Finish the sentence. Take as many words as you need to do it. If people understood nitrates better, they would.
If people understood
nitrates better, they would.
Eat them every single day, and in fact, maybe even eat them twice per day. It is the gift that keeps on giving. Do not doubt them. They are unbelievably powerful.
There it is. Do not doubt them. They are unbelievably powerful. And even though this is the end of the show, I'm definitely going to use this as the teaser at the top. That was a great finish, man. Solid mic drop moment right there, brother.
Oh, well, I like that little soundbite. Cool. Thank you, brother. I appreciate that.
No, it's good stuff, man. All right. So Evolution Health, we're going to put a link down below so that people can work with you and Kylie and keep in touch. And yeah, dude, I mean, it just never ceases to amaze me how much school is in session whenever you come on the show, dude. You're a wealth of knowledge. I appreciate you.
Anytime. Thank you, Chuck. I mean, you're such a stud for letting me come back on here and talk about this stuff. And, I know your audience loves to geek out. I admire that about your audience. And I'm actually shocked by how much the sort of whole food plant-based world just wants to geek out in general. So the more geeky we can get, the more super nerdy we can get, the more deep research we can do, the happier I am.
Cool. All right, man. Then we shall nerd out again in the near future, my dude.
Awesome. Thank you, Chuck. You're a stud.
As are you, you handsome fella. And tell that beautiful wife of yours that I say hi, and tell Indigo we need another play date very soon. I miss playing with Indy, man. She keeps me young, dude.
Do you remember her favorite joke of all time?
How could I forget, bro? How could I forget? Sauerkraut.
Okay, for those of you guys that didn't hear that joke, it was, what do you call the stuff that grows? What do you call the fungus that grows inside of a vegan bathtub?
What do you call the fungus that grows inside of a vegan bathtub? I don't know, Cyrus. What do you call it?
Sauerkraut.
Awesome.
She literally made that joke up. She's 4 years old, and I was like, I was laughing my butt off. It was great.
So good. So good. All right, brother, man. I'll set you free, man. I appreciate your time.
Anytime. Thank you, brother.
Peace.